Good evening, it's Friday and you're watching The Big Story. With Dylan Ang, I'm Olivia Quay coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom.
We begin across the causeway. The King has rejected Interim Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad's request for special parliament sitting on Monday. The sitting was meant to decide who has the majority support for premiership. To be picked as Prime Minister, a sitting MP must command the minimum 112 votes. There are 222 MPs in Malaysia's parliament. But Dr Mahathir revealed yesterday that no candidate has the majority support.
The result is that he cannot find anybody with a distinct majority. And because he doesn't get a distinct majority, he says that the right forum would be the parliament, Dewan Rakyat. So Dewan Rakyat will be called on the 2nd of next month in order to determine who gets the majority support in the Dewan Rakyat to become the next Prime Minister. However, if the Dewan Rakyat fails to find a person with the majority, then we will have to go for a snap election.
The three names in contention to be Prime Minister are said to be Dr Mahathir, Parti Keadilan Rakyat leader Anwar Ibrahim and Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia President Muhyiddin Yassin. As it stands, Mr Anwar leads the race, so to speak, having the support of all 92 Pakatan Harapan lawmakers. But if Parliament can't yield a definitive result, Malaysians will then head to the polls.
Joining us now from Kuala Lumpur is Malaysia Bureau Chief Shannon Teoh. Shannon, good to have you back. Why did Dr Mahathir call for the special sitting only for it to be cancelled by the Agong?
I think if you listen to what Mahathir had to say in the soundbite, he seemed to indicate that this was the Agong's idea to have the sitting. But of course, we know that today the Agong said that he did not give consent to the special sitting. At the same time, the Agong was meeting his other rulers, the other 8 state rulers in the country. And maybe after consultation, there was a different idea about what the process should be. What we do know now is that the Agong has said that he's going to handle it. He wants to be in control of the process and not leave it out into the Dewan Rakyat. Now, many people feel that the Dewan Rakyat might be a more transparent process. You will see how every MP votes. But there are legal and constitutional experts who say that the Dewan Rakyat cannot appoint the Prime Minister. In the end, it still has to go back to the Agong. So it doesn't really matter whether we have this sitting or not. The Agong's got to decide who can best command confidence, because once we go back to Parliament after that, that government still has to pass bills and pass laws.
Right. Shannon, perhaps you could tell us what the power play dynamics is between Dr Mahathir and the King. From what you just said, it sounds like the King actually, holds more weight than Mahathir.
Well, in the situation that we have now, of course, the King is like the referee in a football match. He has to make the call. So he doesn't want that power taken away from him. Mahathir wants to do it in a parliamentary sitting maybe, or in various different avenues that you can try. But the Agong is saying that this is my power, this is something that I have to do, and I don't want to make the wrong decision and then be blamed for it later on. So he's taking back control of the process. Now, of course, if you go back into Malaysian history, back all the way to the 80s, Mahathir was known then to be kind of an anti-royalist. He didn't like that they had so much powers. In fact, under his time as Prime Minister in the first 22 years, he twice clipped their wings, removing certain immunities, certain powers from the royals. So maybe there is still some bad blood between him and the rulers. So, and that might be playing out right now.
Now, Shannon, let's move to Anwar a little bit here. Now, although it appears that he has the most numbers, can he rally additional support from at least 20 other MPs?
So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, right? He's got the support of 92 Pakatan MPs that's solidly behind him. But there's a what if as well. What if he tries to get people from UMNO or PAS to increase the numbers to 112? He needs about 20 more. Well, people in DAP, one of his existing partners right now, people in Amanah, they probably wouldn't like this. They've been fighting UMNO and PAS and these guys for decades, right? And basically they've banded together because they trust each other. One leader described their relationship as being blood brothers. So you can't just willy-nilly bring people into the coalition and think things are fine. It's a very strongly knit team, and I don't think they would appreciate just having anyone in there. What I understand is that they are trying their best to get East Malaysian MPs into the coalition instead of UMNO and PAS.
Right. Well, Shannon, now that the parliament sitting has been called off, do you think this weekend will still be one for deal making?
Yeah, I mean, until there is a final decision, the deals will keep going, and that's perhaps what is resulting in some of the instability, some of the nerves from the public investors as well. For as long as there is no firm government, anything can change. Today, it might look like Anwar's in the front seat. Tomorrow, it could be Muhyiddin. The next day, it could be back to Mahathir. And after that, people might say, hey, I think it's going to be a snap poll. So people don't know how to make decisions with their daily lives and also their investment, their money.
Now, Shannon, just to end off, should the situation result in Malaysians needing to vote if a decision can't be reached in Parliament, of course? Now, what's public sentiment like? Are Malaysians ready to go to the polls so soon?
Malaysians always ready to go to the polls. Anytime there's a chance to be involved in politics, they kind of like it. But I think that in this situation, they don't want the polls to happen. They don't think that this is the right time. It's not really about the coronavirus, but it's more about the state of the economy right now. We've had slowing growth. The fourth quarter, we didn't do well. And we're expecting because of this outbreak that there'll be less business done in the first quarter, less tourism, less retail. So we want a government that can get into the business of making sure the economy is on the right track. Mahathir launched a stimulus package yesterday, but without a government to implement it, it's just a policy. It's not going to be translated into the ground well. So having a snap polls will still mean at least 1 month of campaigns, another month before you can really kind of install a new cabinet, a new government. The situation is going to run away from us. So the cost here is not just about losing the government. The cost is a huge cost to the economy. You're going to lose 2 months of trying to repair the damage of the coronavirus.
Well, thanks so much for your insight, Shannon. Always a pleasure. Of course, we've been speaking to Malaysia Bureau Chief Shannon Teoh on the latest in Malaysia. Keep up to date with developments at straitstimes.com.
Now, this just in, investigations are ongoing into the unregistered Singapore chapter of South Korea's Sinjongji Church. Now, if you remember, the church is at the center of the coronavirus outbreak in Daegu. It's also attracted accusations of being a cult due to its unorthodox teachings.
Now, based on investigations, the Home Affairs Ministry believes that the chapter here has used similar deceptive recruitment methods. 5 South Korean nationals and 2 Singaporeans are helping with investigations. Interviews with members in Singapore so far found that they have not been in recent physical contact with people from the Daegu cluster. The ministry intends to take action to proscribe the activities of the Sinjongji Church in Singapore.
Meanwhile, 3 new coronavirus cases in Singapore were confirmed last night, including a 12-year-old Raffles Institution student and his 64-year-old family member. Classes at his school, as well as at the MOE Language Centre in Bishan, where the infected student attended lessons, were suspended today for thorough cleaning. 4 more cases were discharged, including case 18. She's the last of the imported cases to recover, as all 24 have now been discharged. Beyond Singapore, China reported 327 new confirmed cases, a decline from 433 cases a day earlier. That brings the total number in the country to close to 79,000. 44 more people have died from the virus in China. Over in South Korea, there are 256 new cases as of 5 p.m. local time, taking its total to over 2,000. But there were no further deaths, keeping the toll at 13. Meanwhile, Italy has urged tourists not to stay away, but these efforts of reassurance were overshadowed by a sharp rise in case numbers. The number of infections reached 650 and deaths hit 17. This is by far the highest in Europe. And moving stateside, where there are 60 confirmed cases and 6 deaths. After a U.S. patient contracted the virus and left medical authorities no clues as to where it came from, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has begun sending out new testing guidance to healthcare workers. U.S. Bureau Chief Nirmal Ghosh spoke to Dylan earlier today.
Hi Nirmal, thanks for joining us. Nirmal, the USA has reported its first potential community spread case. Now, what is the general feel on the ground and how is the US media treating the outbreak?
Yes, I think growing alarm is the right phrase. There is no sort of panic or anything on the ground, but you could say there was panic in the markets. The market has had a terrible week thus far. And interestingly, share prices of certain companies in drugs and biotech have gone up, and that's because of speculation that vaccines are under development, which they are, but they will certainly take months, if not a whole year or so, to go through trials and then start actual production. So one of the biggest challenges is to ensure the health system is adequately resourced. And there are problems in the US. I hear experts saying the US had a window of opportunity to prepare for this virus to arrive and spread, and the US did not really organize itself. Now they have to ramp up surveillance and diagnostics, and they have to protect frontline health workers and doctors, and they need more resources. Funds for preparedness have actually been cut under the Trump administration. I heard Dr. Saira Madad, Senior Director for New York City's Public Health Department, just hours ago saying there are significant shortages of equipment and the health system has to go back to basic infection control. It is quite obvious that the administration has had to scramble a bit. It is asking for $2.5 billion, half of which is new funding and half will be diverted from other areas. So lawmakers are thrashing out exactly what is needed, and it looks like they will eventually, in a matter of days, sign off on much more, maybe up to $7 billion. This is also in part a reflection of a different system here from the Chinese one, obviously, which is a command system but with no transparency, whereas here there is debate and transparency. The downside of that is this has become instantly political, with the opposition criticizing the Trump administration for its slow response. The president, as we saw yesterday, was a bit defensive on that. Now, having said all that, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, still says the immediate risk is low. But as soon as we see more cases, and if they are around the country, then expect confidence to decline very fast.
Right.
You will see fewer people going out to restaurants and so forth, and that will just spiral.
Now, what has been the opinion of Mike Pence being placed in charge to lead the fight against the coronavirus?
Well, there's a positive view of the CDC, but as far as the Vice President is concerned, not a very rosy view of that, given his record back in 2015. When he was governor of Indiana, and he let an HIV outbreak go out of control, basically because he was against giving out free needles to drug addicts on ideological grounds. He is deeply conservative. But he is the vice president, and that means this is being run at a very high level. He had his first meeting on this today. He has been in touch with Congress, and there is no shortage of expertise. And if he allows experts to do what they do best and makes sure they have the resources, that would be a good thing.
Now, Nirmal, to end off, given the state of medical insurance for many Americans, could the cost of getting tested prove to be a catalyst for widespread infection?
It could be a factor, but how decisive a factor is the question. Whether it will be a significant driver, we don't know. If people are ill and don't want to go to hospital because for whatever reason they can't afford it, perhaps they will stay home, so that may balance the risk. On the other hand, ill people could go on working because they can't afford to lose a daily wage. There are an estimated 80 million odd people in America without insurance or with inadequate insurance, and a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck. But there is probably more risk from people going to hospitals with or without COVID-19 symptoms, for instance, with some other ailment, and sitting around in waiting rooms where there are other people and healthcare staff without adequate protection, which is why it is so important to make sure healthcare staff can deal with this. Going back to the politics of it, this is quite potentially a black swan event for President Donald Trump, but it is also an opportunity to show that he can deal with a crisis of this magnitude.
Well, thanks, Nirmal, for sharing your insight. Be sure to catch the latest episode of Asian Insider, helmed by Nirmal Ghosh, on the Straits Times YouTube page. In Parliament today, Deputy Prime Minister Heng Swee Keat said the President, all Cabinet Ministers and political office holders will take a 1-month pay cut in their salary. Frontline healthcare workers will also receive a special 1-month bonus for their efforts in battling the outbreak, said Mr. Heng in a speech rounding up this year's budget debate.
We will win this war over the virus by fighting as one united people. To show solidarity with fellow Singaporeans, all political office holders will take a 1-month cut in their salary. All members of Parliament will also take a 1-month cut in their allowance. The President has informed me that she will join in to take a similar 1-month pay cut.
Mr. Heng also explained why the GST hike cannot be delayed or dropped entirely. He said that the money is needed to provide better and more affordable healthcare and education services for Singaporeans. Now, Singapore wants to halve the amount of emissions from its 2030 peak. The aim to achieve net zero emissions as soon as viable in the second half of the century, said Senior Minister Teoh. One of the ways to further cut carbon emissions is by increasing the production of solar energy, said Mr. Teoh.
Keeping carbon emissions low from electrical power generation, this is very important, especially as we push for greater electrification of our nation. We are deploying offshore solar farms, and HDB aims to install as many solar panels as feasible on HDB rooftops.
Among other measures, the government plans to phase out internal combustion engine vehicles by 2040. Back to you, Olivia.
Well, thanks, Dylan. Now, picture this. It's 9 a.m. on a weekday morning. Instead of being at the office, you're at home with a cup of coffee and your laptop is switched on, ready to start work for the day. Now, many may see this work-from-home situation a perk as it means more flexibility in managing one's schedule. But some may find this arrangement lonely and isolating. More companies have adopted split-team operations in light of the coronavirus outbreak. While many welcome the change in their work environment, some may find themselves struggling to adjust to working from home. Feeling isolated, facing many distractions at home, and having anxiety over not being able to focus are some common challenges you may face while working from home. Well, to share more on this, we have journalist Anjali Raguraman. Anjali, the Sunday Times is preparing a story on this. You spoke to some professionals who have had to work from home for a while, even before the coronavirus. So how have they coped with that?
Yeah, so split team operations may be a new phenomenon for many of us, but there are several Singaporeans who have been doing it for ages now.
Yeah,
and
of course.
there are professionals who are like CEOs, senior consultant, HR professionals. And so my colleague Hannah and I spoke to various people, and one of them is Miss Nasuha Marikan, who has a work from home arrangement because she has an 11-month-old daughter, as well as a father who had a stroke last year. So working from home gives her the flexibility to both go into the office and look after, go into the hospital and look after her dad, as well as come back home and look after her kid. And then later on in the day, she gets to finish up her work as a senior compliance consultant.
Now,
And,
Anjali, oh, sorry,
yes.
please go ahead.
Now, I was just going to add that she has a home office setup where, you have your MacBook Pro, your iMac, so she can review documents, and then she can take calls as and when she needs to. And then she's the sort of person who says that she does not like to conform to the 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. culture of like showing face in office. So this arrangement works for her, and it's a case across the board for many of the people we spoke. Yeah.
Now, Anjali, of course, you've been working from home for a few weeks now. How has the experience been like for you?
Yeah, it's been about 3 weeks, and personally, I'm getting major cabin fever. I quite like going out for events, meeting people in person instead of doing email interviews so it's been hard for me. But I think it's going to be for a bit more, so I got to figure out how to cope with it in the long term.
Anjali, what are some pro tips you've gotten on how to stay productive while working from home? I can imagine there'll be many, many distractions.
Oh yeah, especially things like the bed and the TV. So among the people we spoke to, they said that it's important to carve out a separate workspace. So you have like a desk or a separate, like to imitate your cubicle in the office, basically. So that and then you gotta maintain peace and quiet by like having maybe the radio or the music down to a low volume, or having the TV off. And then other things include making a to-do list. So you know what you got to get done for the day. And after each task is done, you strike it off. And lastly, you got to take active breaks, because you don't have the option of going up to the canteen for a tea break or, walking up to the friend's desk to say hi or whatever. So some people we spoke to say, it's good to have a sweat session. So something like a quick 2-minute workout. So jumping jacks or mountain climbers, just something to get your endorphins flowing. Yeah.
Right, good tips. Thank you so much. That was journalist Anjali Raguraman on how people can cope with the split team operations that companies have adopted. And you can read more, of course, on the Sunday Times this weekend.
And those are your top stories. Keep up to date with news in Singapore and around the world at straitstimes.com. I'm Dylan Ang with Oliver Quay. See you next week for more stories on The Big Story. Have a great weekend.